Today I want to ask the very simple question, why is it that we find it so easy to fail or fall, and how do we get around it? How do we get ourselves back on track? Thanks for joining me. I'm Darren and welcome to Entrepreneurs, where together we learn and grow our entrepreneur mindset so we can have greater success in our life and our business. So you probably noticed I haven't put out any content over the last few weeks, and I have to admit that the keeping up with this regular content every week, one video a week is not a lot. I'm finding it very challenging, and I sort of want to just break that down a little bit as to why I think that's happening. So first of all, I just want to cover off what I've seen as the obstacles. And probably the number one is I've been working away for the last 3 weekends. So this is the first weekend I've been home for the last month. And so that's one factor, because most of the time I would be doing these videos on the weekend outside of work hours. Not an excuse, but that's generally when I would find myself doing them. Second to that, the last couple of weeks I haven't been meditating as well. And I think that's come about. We've had to make some choices over what our priorities are, and as a consequence of that, we dropped our gym membership, and so that was part of my morning routine with the meditation. Is I'd go to gym, I'd come home, I'd have a shower, I'd pop down here into the studio, and I'd do my 20-minute meditation. And so while I was in that routine, it was very easy to do because it was just part of that daily routine. But when that stopped, so when we stopped going to the gym, and then I haven't replaced that with other exercise at this stage, so that routine has changed. So I guess that's one of the factors that I can look at, not making an excuse for it, but one of the factors that have made it difficult for me to, keep going with that routine that I have been sort of got into the habit of doing. It has been a real struggle, and it's interesting. I was sort of thinking about this morning, that it's, by the sheer virtue of gravity, it's much easier for us to fall than it is to get back up. And so I guess that's, we've got all these external factors that make it very easy for us to fall back into those old habits and make excuses as to why we're not doing things and why we're not moving forward with what we saw as something worthwhile achieving. And it's a big lesson for all of us. In particular, it's a big lesson for me that it requires a lot of effort to achieve those goals and break away. So if you think about gravity, for example, the amount of energy required to break out of that gravitational pull from the Earth is enormous, and I think that's where there's a lot of those factors that I'm still attached to from the past that. And that's a lot of that self-talk that's actually holding me back from breaking free from that and actually moving forward. So I'm probably just waffling at the moment, but hopefully that'll make sense to a few of you as well. A couple of things that I've sort of committed to doing over the next couple of weeks to get back on track. Number one is, now I had written down my goals, and that's all well and good. And it was the physical act of writing the goals out is I think is a big part of helping achieve those. But if we then close that book and pop it on the shelf, and we don't see that book again for the next month, then it's not in our faces, and it's it loses its effectiveness. So that's one of those things that I'm sort of committing to doing, is just sitting down and going through and reviewing those goals and breaking those goals down, like I covered in the last video, into those more achievable steps. And hopefully that'll help me keep on track with that. The other thing, in the studio office, I've got a whiteboard that's conveniently sitting down beside the cupboard out of sight. So I'm going to get that out and pop that up on the wall. And we used to do that with the photography business, is that we'd have that whiteboard up on the wall with all of our jobs and what stage the jobs were at. So I'll be doing that and getting that back out. So every time I'm in the office, those goals and whatnot are just in my face. So I have no option but to look at them and remind myself why I'm doing this. So I was watching a couple of videos this morning, and one of them really struck a chord with me, and it was a guy talking about how he was wanting to become the best version of himself, or the best version of the man that he would like his son to grow up to be. And that really hit home, because I think I've struggled with that. Shelby's growing up. He's just recently turned 16. And, I've got to lift my game to, show him how he should be acting and how he can become a better person. And, I need to be that role model for him as to how I can become that better person. It was timely to see that video this morning, and it does make me feel quite emotional when I think about it that way. I'm committed to getting back on track with things and seeing how we can move forward with what we've got planned. Danette and I have been talking, and we've come up with some options as to how we can expand on the photography business and offering some different services to those clients that we have, those regular clients that we have every year with the sports photography. So I'm excited to explore those options and see how we can grow that side of the business as well. The sports stuff, I've got to get a reel on there. With the sports coach, there's lots to do, and again, I've just sort of dropped the ball on that one. No pun intended, but so lots of stuff to work on. I'd love to hear your stories on how you've struggled with things, with goals, and how you go about getting back on track. It's one of the hardest things that I've sort of found that's really challenging me this year, because I think it is something that I am doing for myself. I've always sort of said in the past that I find it much easier to put in that effort for someone else's success, and making that shift to putting that effort in for our own success, or my own success, is it's been a really challenging time. So I'd love to hear your challenges around that as well. Until the next video, have an awesome week. Just remember that we all deserve success and happiness in our lives.